So, why wouldn't the powers that be, why wouldn't the priest and the new elected government officials, um, because remember, prior to a certain time period, there was no government, therefore, there could be no government officials. With the forming of religion, established religion, there was also a forming of government. Those two came hand in hand. Because prior to, the entire world was nomadic and tribal, and there was no land possession from anybody to anybody. And when that ceased, everything changed. And I can't get into that in this podcast because that's like a whole big old mountain of why all of these podcasts are here that I'm doing, and you'll just need to listen to all of them. So, but that was essentially what was going on. Is they needed a methodology to get the masses to believe in a system where everyone would put forth the effort towards the good of the one, as opposed to everyone putting forth the effort into the good of each one of themselves. And obviously, you can get more done by having a group of people work for the same cause, which is why factions were created and why divisions were made, because certain people got wind of what was really going on and said, well, this just isn't fair. I could do this too. And next thing you know, you have fighting houses and fighting this, right? So that's why they're called patriarchies, because back in the day, the head of the family was the patriarch. They were the head of the tribe. All of ththese groups were tribal, and they were all clansmen and everything else. And you could marry in or be brought in, but you were still part of the tribe, and you were expected to go by the house rules. And the father of the house made the rules. And the house could be as big as all of, okay, let's look at it this way. Most people, when they hear Russia, they think of a country. I hear the House of Rus. That was a house, the House of Rus. It was a Viking house, right? And that formed that entire territory that they had to take from the Tartarians, which later ended up becoming a part of the Romanovs, right? Which adhered to the more of the Roman style way of doing things. So you got to understand history before you know how these things transpired, and how we went from there to here, and how when they change what we call ourselves, it distorts what history really was. Which brings us to who really is playing the 4D, 5D, and 6D chess on who. Because it wasn't Trump playing it against the deep state. It always has been, always will be, the governments and the religions playing it on the people. Because they're the ones that always have, it's their board, for one. It's their game pieces. And they're always able to change the rule book anytime they want. And we see that happen all the time when a certain, let's say when Democrats take power, or when they don't have power. It doesn't really matter. It depends. If it suits their needs, they will change the rules. They will change the law. They'll change the electoral college. They want to change all kinds of stuff. It's just ridiculous and getting out of hand. And they've done this in every country. It's not just America where they go in. Look at Australia and the stranglehold that the globalists have around that country, or look at the European countries and the stranglehold that they're under. So what they really don't want is for us as a people to understand that we are the people, and our consent is what matters, and what we want is what matters. And we don't need to fight them and rebel against them. We just need to ignore them and understand that they don't have that power over us. By rebelling against them and fighting against them, it's showing that we think that they have the power over us. It's kind of like if you're a teenage kid and you argue with your mom and dad over the house rules, then you're proving to them that it's still their house and it's still their rules. But if you just get up and leave the fucking house and go do your own thing, excuse my language, I try to keep these clean, then there's nothing they can do about it, right? You just got up and left. And then what are they doing? They're ruling over an empty house. But it's not just that they've infiltrated our government and our religion, and out of the ashes of the phoenix rose up with it to create this big, huge, massive 6D, 5D chessboard. They've also created Hollywood. They've also created mainstream media. They've also created the internet now, and everything that goes with it. So the control point factors are all along the way. And that is why it's not so much important to them how long something's been around, and continuing that longevity, because where they're headed, there are no roads. Got it? All right, guys. Well, we'll catch you on the next one. Tomorrow, I've got something really, really detailed planned out. So I hope to see you back here. This one was a light and fun one because the chessboard factor, I had to make a point of bringing that in, because you can't just use a metaphor through an entire presidency. And then once the presidency's over, act like, oops, gee, we never said anything like that. Did we say he had a plan? And I was kind of more pro-Trump than against Trump. I'm just very skeptical of people in general because I know it's not a Trump thing. It's not a Biden thing. They're just the face of the agenda behind it. And ultimately, because of what I know with what's happening with the signed treaty with the alien race from Antarctica, that we have between 2021, which is Agenda 21, through Agenda 2030, right, to get our shit together before that treaty comes into fruition. So, with that being said, I'll leave you hanging and dangling with that little tidbit and nugget. If you want to know more, go look at the other podcast. And if you really want to find everything out, go ahead and pick up a copy of Octogod, the unwritten book. I just finished up the last touches the other day. It's in pre-order right now, pre-sale. It comes out on Groundhog Day, which is February the 2nd, 2021. And we did that because I wanted to basically showcase the fact and give homage to the fact of the Groundhog Day movie, of something that repeats over and over and over again, and we get stuck in it. And that's what this book is about how us as a race of people have gotten stuck into these cycles of human existence that we can't control, that we don't know, because of real history has been erased, it's been weaponized, and it's been used against us in order to corral us and lead us like the sheeple that they want us to be with this new technology that we keep gathering all along the way. And so they have to create this false history that goes back to try to make disbelief out of it. You don't believe me? I'll just throw you a real quick tidbit out there, and then you can go back and look at some of the other stuff. But you've all seen Western movies, right? Other than the Western movies you've seen, where do you get your Western knowledge from? If it didn't come from an American printed book that you read in school, or something that was authored late from the 19th century, where would you get your facts from? That's right, Hollywood. Now, in any of those movies or in any of those books you read, there was always been a prison break, wasn't there? And in all of those prison breaks, do they not go up and talk to the outlaws, talk to each other from the window outside the prison cell that has the bars on it, right? Common theme and mantra in every Western movie. Right? Typical. You're with me so far, right? And they normally tie some rope around it. They pull it with a horse, or they normally blow it up with some dynamite, then pull it with a horse, or you catch my drift. They normally do something and do that. Let me ask you this. How long ago was the Old West? How long ago was Western, that dogma, that ideology of us going to the Old West? It wasn't that long ago, right? It was talking late 1800s, early 19th century, right? When was glass invented? Wasn't glass invented 4000 BC? So add another 1,000 years onto that. We've got 5,000 years glass was invented. But gee, not a single one of these Old West areas has glass windows on their prisons or anywhere else to keep the elements and water out. Doesn't that seem strange to you? Don't you think people would have had glass and been using it on their windows and stuff by then? It's just little peculiarities like that. Go look at the father of Hollywood and how many cities he supposedly founded prior to his first run in Oklahoma and founding that city and laying the first brick there. And then tell me how all of this is conjecture and make believe. There's a history they don't want us to know about, and they can't cover it up because there's too much stuff cemented in reality, like old currency, old stamps, population growth. That's a good one, right? Biden just signed a thing allowing 15 million Americans to become legalized citizen. Did you know that when we founded the country, there was only 2.5 million here altogether? So that tells you how many times we just founded America over again in an essence. Well, I got to go, guys. My time is up, and I will see you all tomorrow. So go ahead and get you a copy of Octogod. It is impressive. And it also has a side story series out with it for a younger crowd called The Adventures of WizKid. And the first one's called The Invisible WizKid. And I don't want to give anything away, but it ties into the Octogod book. And it's its own spin-off and it's its own series. So if you're interested in finding out what's really going on, I suggest get Octogod. If you like